Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over. Last episode we saw the end of the Second Great War and we saw what Lavender did and we got two new countries, a new lime team and dark pink. But today there will be much more to discover for those countries and all the others, because the world is going to expand. After the Second Great War, many not landlocked countries want to expand their borders and want to just forget what happened. And also, Pink got the idea to make inner borders in their own countries, and that's what eventually happened. So I can finally introduce the provinces layer, and it looks amazing. It really looks amazing. You maybe can see some countries looking different than others. For example, we have dark blue, the largest country in the world right now. It has like larger spots because, well, yeah, it's a barren desert. They don't really have to divide it up that much. And if we enable major cities, we have, for example, here 2 dots and 2 separate provinces inside one. And of course Lavender doesn't have provinces because they are totally not connected with the outside world, so they are not even doing that, all those things what all the other people are doing. And you see small pockets right here, like those small coastlines are not in a part of any province, because, well, it's pretty logical, they are still expanding. So there is here one, like dark red has still one, and lime. But let's see what will happen today, first with the Lavender team. They got this last part of this island and they ventured some further along the coastline to see what's actually all the way down there. They know this is a pretty big coastline and, well, they just want to see what's all the way here. Eventually they stop because, well, adventuring this far away from the major cities like all those here is pretty dangerous, so they stop and eventually see here another coastline and they make a little bit of a stop. Of course the Himalaya mountains are right here, so they are trying to venture some further here, but they are getting the feeling that it's hard to traverse just because the rough area, the rough terrain, it's hard. So what they do, they go around the purple's area that's still sort of claimed by them, but they actually know there's no one here, like from here to here there's no one. So they take it all for themselves. They follow this coastline and they eventually meet up with the first province. They see a little border, they sort of now see that there are inner borders, they know this is still all the purple. They only know about these guys and some others that of course went here to see what's going on here, like dark blue with cyan and purple went with 10 or 15 men towards Lavender. And they are now claiming the parts outside Purple's team. They got everything from them and now they are going further. And eventually Purple realizes this and says, what is going on? This is our land. But they let it slide because they know what could happen if they eventually do interrupt these Lavender people. The Lavender people stop right here and claim a little bit more of the land around the land they claimed, and they eventually reconnect these parts and fill the rest in for themselves. That's the only thing that's going to happen right now. We make a jump to Greenland, where the gold team is expanding their land a little bit more, but they realize that expanding their borders this far away from home is getting rough. Of course, it's really cold here, colder than in their own country, because, well, Grey has the colder parts, and they realize it's hard to traverse all this land eventually, and they want to just forget expanding right here, and they focus more on finding other land. There were a few expeditions that went south and a little bit to the west, but they eventually returned because they didn't find any more land. But without them knowing, there is a lot of land to find. Let's pay attention to another country we are not really paying attention to that much in this series. Dark Cyan, the country that's hating still on the red team, and the dark green team eventually goes there on like a sort of expedition, on like sort of meeting with this leader, Dark Cyan, and eventually asked him, "Were you involved in that war we had with the Reds and the Dark Reds?" And they said no. Although the Dark Green team didn't really believe the Dark Cyan team, they just left it alone and they had a nice day, and eventually the Dark Green King returned home. But it's time for another country to finally expand their borders. It's the Lime team, the new Lime team. They got all the land around here, around these lakes, and they expanded their borders with Dark Green a little bit more, and with their own province, and they just expanded it a lot more. Eventually they got this amount of land out of it. They found more woods, they found more nice areas to build, and they got this land right here. So they expanded their land and made new 2 provinces. And after a while, a few more settlements popped up. Also, Blue got a few more settlements that got major because of population growth, and Red got one more as well. They finally were able to build one, and Dark Red also labeled this one where the old Red's capital was, as well as a major city. Brown and Orange got a few as well in this corner of the world, and Orange population grew rapidly as well. And the Dark Pinks got a 2 more too. It was now Purple's time to expand their borders more, and they knew that their Lavender team was coming up pretty soon. They knew if they cannot stop them, they will get land for them, the Purple team. So they got as far as they could, and they blocked Lavender from expanding. They saw Lavender as a threat, because see how many settlements they have. See how big they became after the 1 deviation in the ocean. Purple was getting scared. And after a great while, eventually these 2 parts were beginning to grow, and this was beginning to be a pretty major part of the Purple country, with a few more settlements popping up as well. And Lavender made one here too after a while. And Purple got 4 new provinces with this expedition too. But Purple was not done yet with expanding their borders. They went alongside the Lime team's border, and they got to the end. And they wanted to make this a really big part of their land. They wanted to surpass their friends, their dark blue fellas, in land area. And after a long expedition, 2 teams met up with each other, and this was a really big portion of the world that got claimed by, of course, the Purple team. No one was able to get it other than them, so they did it, they took it. Dark Green was also going to expand their borders a little bit more, and got a great portion out of it too. Dark Pink as well, and even Pink expanded their borders alongside Dark Pink and Dark Green. Pink was not done yet, and they wanted to expand more and more alongside Green. Green did not take this land, they knew it, and Green had not really planned to expand even more. They were busy on his own, so they just let Pink expand alongside their borders. And they eventually met up with Lime, and they got further and further and further and further until here. Until here they got stopped by this settlement. This settlement was near another one, like here is another minor settlement in contact with this one, and they eventually knew and noticed a pink group, like a group from the Pinks. And Lime wasn't really happy by the expedition and their expanding. So quickly, Lime got a little portion of land to let them know, yo, don't take this land here. We want to expand to the north. We want to go here, towards the north, the east, southeast. We want to expand our borders greatly, and you are in the way of that. So eventually Pink stopped with expanding their borders towards the east and went north a little bit. And they claimed this part of the world. Now Dark Green was also not able anymore to expand their borders without taking land from someone, but they were not really bothering about that. They were happy with what they got, and yeah, they were not the only one that are landlocked. Cyan, Magenta, Orange and Gold are as well. Well, Gold can of course expand outside Europe, but they didn't know they were doing that. So yeah, Lime was going to expand even more in the north. Dark pink wanted also a little bit more of land, so they were claiming these islands in the north. It was pretty cold there, but still they wanted to claim the land before dark gray did it. Or gray, I don't know why I called them dark gray. But we also still have to update the new provinces map, of course. Lime claimed this really long stretching land as one province to make this land like official theirs, because the world was kinda expecting if these sort of land things pop up, anyone can still sort of take it. They are not in provinces, so yeah, when Lavender got this land from the purples, they were not actually at fault after the fact, but of course Purple did not really like that. And the older countries were removing their old province borders to expand them and make them a little more clean, because some provinces also wanted to expand. Green as well. Some stayed as they are, for example this little one, and some wanted to expand like these. So everyone got to work. Green was done by expanding their provinces map, dark pink was done, and pink was done. But we won't forget purple. And purple was done. Purple had 5 major large new provinces. They were big, but they were not really bothered about making them in real small provinces like here in their mainland where they began. And after a while also new settlements started to pop up. Let's see how many purple will get. 8 new settlements. And blue got one near the border as well. Let's see how many green will get. 4. And pink also 4. And lime got just 1. And dark pink got 3. So the world is now looking a little bit more filled, but we're still a great Siberia to fill and just hold China and Asia, you get what I mean. But that will be it for today with this part of the world. Let's take a look at this part, Africa. The Dark Red King was finally approving a new expedition towards the south. So they did. A large team were venturing alongside the coast, what Red all those years did as well. They claimed it all for themselves, so the Dark Red King can eventually claim it for himself, and he can expand his kingdom. They eventually got here at this little tip in Africa. We are right here. But suddenly the weather got bad, pretty bad. And after a while, the group started to split into 2. And the weather got real bad and they lost each other. This group right here thought they were behind, so they were going more towards the east. The other group stayed here, to find them, but they never returned. Eventually they thought they were dead, so they lost like half of their group, so they went back to the capital to tell the king what happened. But this little group thought they were the only ones left, and eventually knew where the other ones were, but they were already long gone. There was a little camp, but no one was there. 2 weeks were passed without seeing the other group. So these Dark Reds stayed behind. Maybe the other ones were going to the north from somewhere else. They thought they would come back, but they never did. After what happened to the Dark Reds, disapproved another expedition to search for the people. He said they are dead, don't bother about it, we will consider expanding our borders here in the north instead of the south. But by doing that, actually not going back, this group started to settle and they eventually just broke off. The Dark Orange team was born. They claimed a little bit more land here and they started to set up. They made 2 major settlements, and 1 more that became their capital, and they made their own border as well, to let the outside world know, well, we actually want to stay here. One of the men that got split in this group, he was actually a man that wanted to stay always here in the south. He wanted never to come back to the Dark Reds. He wanted to begin something here in the south, with many of his people. And they eventually stayed here, and never to return. The last thing that will happen in this episode is that Dark Blue was going to expand their borders as well. They wanted to thrive over this part of the world, and they got some more land here in the tip of Africa, East Africa. And this is how it was looking like right now. They got a great portion of new land back in their hands. And the world is now looking like this. Not really much happened, but I will guarantee to you that next episode, again, much more will happen in terms of expanding land, new countries that will pop up, splits, maybe even later down the line, countries that will merge into one. We will see what will happen. But this was it for today, and we will see what will happen next time.